Welcome to one of the past HSC exam question videos. Where I'll do in this video, I'll cover this exam question, which comes from the 2001 HSC paper, and it's question 25 of that paper, and it's worth 3 marks. What I'll do in a second is I'll read the actual question. Once I read the question, you get about 5 seconds to pause the video. Once you pause the video, attempt the question, and then press play when you're ready. I'll go over an actual sample answer afterwards, plus I've got the marking guidelines and a syllabus dot point that links this question to that syllabus dot point. But I'll read the actual question. It says, antibiotics are drugs widely used in most industrial societies. They are used to treat bacterial infections, are added to animal feed, and have been included in plastic products such as sandwich bags. Explain 2 possible effects of this widespread use of antibiotics on the likely spread of disease in future. And that's worth 3 marks. So when you're ready, pause the video and attempt the question. Welcome back. Alright, so we have to explain 2 possible effects of this widespread use of antibiotics on the likelihood of spread of the disease in the future. So the marking guideline says to get your 3 marks, you have to describe 2 implications and relate at least one of these to the likely spread of disease. So what are the 2 implications of using antibiotics a lot, right? So first, what we should be doing is talking about what antibiotics actually do. So antibiotics treat bacterial infections. That's what antibiotics do. Now, first of all, so one of the actual implications would be that using more antibiotics means obviously that more people are cured of their infections, right? So antibiotics treat bacterial infections, so the more we use, the more people are cured of their infections. But the one that is really important is obviously the antibiotic resistance, because the more we use it, the more antibiotic resistance will develop as well. And that antibiotic resistance then leads to new drugs having to be developed and higher costs of research in healthcare as the consequence, right? So it says describe 2 implications of the massive use of antibiotics. One of them was that we'll have initially, especially short term, we'll have more people being cured of their infections because we've got more people using antibiotics. But in the long term, we have more the actual bacteria becoming resistant, antibiotic resistant to the actual antibiotics, which means that we need to develop new drugs and we need to put in more money to make that happen. Right? So that's basically what I'll go through here in my sample answer. So first I wrote, antibiotics are used to treat infections caused by bacteria. So that was the actual purpose of antibiotics. Antibiotics kill bacteria before they can replicate and cause more harm. Right? That's basically just what they do. Then I wrote, the short-term effect of the increased use of antibiotics will lead to an increase in the amount of patients that have their bacterial infections successfully treated. Remember, this was one of the implications. Right, that's a good implication. That means we treat more people successfully in the short term. Right, that's at the beginning. And then what I wrote about is the actual long term. Natural selection will favor the more resistant bacteria, which means that antibiotic resistance will develop in the long term. Right? So in the long term, we have antibiotic resistance developing. And now we talk about a likely, so it explains possible effects of this widespread use of, and in the actual marking guidelines, we were meant to relate one of them, so to the likely spread of disease in the future. I'm covering all of this. Describe 2 implications and relate at least one of these to the likelihood of spread of disease in the future. So we're going to do both of them, but this one is, the problem of this is we're going to develop these resistant strains, and this means that new drugs have to be developed as older drugs become less successful. And this will increase the future cost of healthcare and research. Right? So these drugs won't be working as well. That's a problem for future spread of disease, because that means more disease unless we invest more money into research and healthcare. And that's basically what we have to talk about. These 2 reasons. One of them was a good reason. We've got more treatment. On the negative side, we've got more resistance, which means for long term, that means we have more problems, and especially when it comes to this spread of disease. And where does this dot point come from, or this question? It comes from these 2 dot points. So identify the role of antibiotics. So we need to know what antibiotics do, and this question does refer to that. And discuss problems associated with relating to antibiotic resistance. So most of this was to the discussing problems relating to antibiotic resistance. But hopefully that was useful.